The Miranda class was a Federation starship. It was overall relatively unknown. Its primary missions were scientific research and supply. It had a somewhat modular design which allowed it to fulfill these roles very well. They were in service from the late 23rd century through the 24th century. The class may have been somewhat unremarkable, but it was a solid and reliable design. Its length was 233 metres and its crew complement could be up to 200. Unlike a lot of Federation ships, the Miranda had no engineering hull. The warp nacelles were fitted to a saucer and a photon torpedo launcher was located in a structure above the saucer. There were a few variations and modifications to the design, while it was in service, and this shows the versatility of the class. The class itself became well known after Khan captured the Reliant. Although Khan's overconfidence and arrogance would in part lead to his demise, his superior intellect did allow the Reliant to take on the much stronger Enterprise. The Reliant is one of my all-time favourite Star Trek ships. There is a simplicity to it that doesn't diminish its elegance. The funny thing is, the design was meant to have the nacelles above the saucer, but when the powers that be signed off on the design, they did so with the image upside down. The designers decided to go with that. Now, it would be remiss of me not to say that a big appeal of the Reliant is because of Wrath of Khan. I grew up with Star Wars and loved the adventure of it, but I really did love Wrath of Khan as a kid. It was the perfect introduction to Trek for me. It had cool ships, cool action. Khan was so over the top he was almost camp, but Ricardo played him so naturally that the exaggerated characteristics felt natural. The action pieces were amazing. It got me very interested, and interested enough that I could appreciate some of the less action stories. I went looking for the motion picture after Khan and really enjoyed it, even though its tone was utterly different. So through the years I have had a couple of miniatures of the Reliant. I normally build kits, but the Trek kits are a total mixed bag, and none seem to hit great quality, although some modelers have done amazing stuff with them. Then I found Eaglemoss, and they have just last year started shipping Trek to Canada. So when Granny said, "What did I want for Christmas?" I said 2 of these Trek ships. I do like Eaglemoss. They do Doctor Who, Aliens, Battlestar, and Batmobiles, as well as other things. And when they do it, they really do it. There are so many Batmobiles it isn't funny, and the list of Star Trek ships is staggering and it keeps growing. I did have a couple of reservations, however. Diecast is a funny beast. They can be super high detail and then have a massive join and rivets hold them together. Some of the die-cast aircraft are like this. They are not expensive, but they are not cheap, so that could mean that they would cut some quality corners. The Reliant arrived at warp speed, if you will pardon the pun. The ships came with a short magazine that describes the ship, its importance, the model, and any interesting info. It has photos, drawings, and when possible concept stuff so you can see where it comes from. In the case of the Reliant, it has all of those. You can obtain a special binder for the magazines if you wish. The ship itself comes in a cardboard box and a clear plastic covering goes over the top so you can see the ship held within. There is no top of the box, so to speak. The whole thing is the magazine and ship case. Within is the ship and its stand. Removing the ship is not overly difficult. Cut the tape holding the top plastic and remove it. The ship is sitting in a form-fitting plastic package. Taking it out is easy, but as there are things like the warp nacelles, just take care that they come free without any problems. Bending or snapping them would just plain suck. The stand is a nice design, but you have to be careful with it. You don't have any holes to screw the stand into, which I think is nice. A lot of die-cast models have holes or threading to screw the stand in. This can be a very solid fit, but your model has a hole in it. That doesn't happen here. The stand slides over the top and bottom of the saucer section. The downside to this is that a part of the stand does go over the saucer, which hides a little of the detail. The stand holds the ship well when untouched, but it can be easily knocked out. The other issue is the upright support clicks in, but if it's not 100% in, it can tip out real quick. I superglued the support in just to be sure. When I first got it, I thought the ship was smaller than I wanted. But since getting it, and it's sat there, I think now the size is overall a decent balance. It's not small, it's not large, and the detail is very visible. The painting is very good and stays within the lines. The colours are good and the decal's great. The saucer is of metal construction and has a nice weight to it. Only real issue I found is that each nacelle is a 2-part plastic construction, and on both there is an obvious seam line. If Eaglemoss had to fix anything, I would say clean up these seam lines. This came to about $45 with shipping, and overall I am quite happy with it. I will be picking up more.